All right, lads, welcome back to another episode of Who's Got the Ball. This is usually a point where I say it's myself and Shane, but it is just me for now. Michael is going to be joining very, very soon. I'm just running through everything we talked about on this episode with you and getting you prepped for this Ireland game that's coming up. Going to be a huge game. If you're listening to this the day it comes out, the first game will be tonight against the Czech Republic. Yeah, very nervous. It's about 24 hours out from it right now when I'm speaking, and yeah, I don't know. I just can't think about the game. I just want to get to the game, see what lineup we have. There's mentions that it could well be a Harvey Vale start, which if Ogbene isn't fully fit, I wouldn't be opposed to. And that would be interesting. I'm sure he'd give it all in his first cap. I hope Coleman is able to start. And there's possibility that we see Bosun Lawal play, which would be great to see him get some minutes. Let's hope Parrott does his thing. We did a full kind of review of the window and the squad, and also a preview of the game in Czech Republic with Shane last week on that episode. So jump back to that if you want to give that a listen. But on this week, we had a kind of an NBA special for you guys. We just touched on the Premier League and Ireland's chances of qualification and the NFL last week because we knew Shane would be away. He's over in Prague, still trying to get that ticket to the game. Fingers crossed he gets one. So I'm recording with Michael this week on an NBA special before the playoffs to try and cover off as much as we can. So we spoke about the Eastern Conference first of all, then the Western Conference. We went into detail about a sleeper team for each conference who we thought could really be an underdog for people that aren't expecting a team to go very far. We picked out one each for that for each conference. Then we talked about teams that really need to continue winning in this last 10 game stretch of the season to benefit their seeding for their matchups then when it comes into the playoffs, who it's most important for. And then lastly, we gave our very early Western and Eastern Conference matchup finals, our final matchups, should I say, and we picked it who we thought was going to reach that stage and battle. So give it a listen. Let us know what you thought of our opinions, and obviously there is a little bit of Gan Seans and power rankings thrown in there at the end where I give my picks and Shane's mailed in picks too. So we've got those usual segments for you to listen to. But without further ado, let's welcome Michael in and jump into the episode. So we've got our man Michael back. Couple of weeks he didn't have him. We had to postpone the week back on. He was more than willing to jump on, even though he was away on holidays. So that's the credit to him. But we said, look, let's wait. Let's do a full episode on NBA stuff while Shane is away in Prague. So that's why this is hitting your ears a week earlier. But you get a full dose of Michael. So that's lucky for you guys. How are you, Mike?
Feeling pretty good. I'm excited to talk NBA playoff basketball, I'll be honest, I haven't been as tapped into the college basketball as I should be, probably, but did watch Dennis Jenkins hit a game winner live over the Lakers. That was ecstatic. I can't lie. Tough ass mid range.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll keep it
Then he hit
pushing.
the free
We'll
throws
keep
as
it.
well, which is clutch. And then St. John's went on to win his school in March Madness. So it's been pretty wild for him. But yeah, Sweet 16 of March Madness will be on Thursday night. It's starting. So if you're listening to this Thursday, get on that tonight. But what we want to talk about, as Michael said, is some NBA playoff basketball. We're very, very close to that right now. Less than a month away at this point for some playing games, and then we'll jump into the playoffs itself. So we want to run through the Eastern Conference. We've got some main talking points, and then the same with the Western Conference. We kind of want to hit the same talking points for each. So what we started off with was looking at a sleeper team for each conference. So basically a team that's going to go under the radar and maybe make it far. I found it a lot harder to do the East because I feel like a lot of teams are sleeper teams. So I'll throw it to you first to go with the East. What do you think?
Honestly, with the East, there's a lot. My heart in my heart tells me the Charlotte Hornets. Okay, it is, even though I just mentioned Dennis Jenkins hitting that game winner, I don't think that's something that can be relied upon consistently, and they've kind of come off their heater a little bit now in the last week and a half ish. But if they can just continue some of that momentum, the best matchup you can get in the Eastern Conference is Detroit without Cade Cunningham.
Yeah.
Even it won't be an easy matchup, but if there was any chance of the Hornets doing anything this year, it's a depleted Detroit team in the first round. Now, they have to make it out of the play-ins. And Miami could just own the play-ins for another year again, and this is all out the window. But I look at the Knicks, I look at Cleveland, I look at the Raptors, I look at the Hawks, and all of them just seem second round ceiling, Like I just don't think second or first round, honestly, a lot of them. It's going to be very matchup dependent going into the playoffs in the first place. But
Man.
unless you're just picking Boston, which I feel like most people are at this point,
Yeah.
I think the Hornets would be an interesting team to see in the Eastern Conference Finals, like that Hawks team with Trae Young back in 2021, I think.
Yeah, it's not the first time that we drew comparisons to that. These two teams, like we spoke about that before, the overlaps. I think the Celtics are gone beyond sleeper status at this point because Tatum is back and they've had such a good season, which is crazy to say given where the roster stayed at the start. The Knicks, yeah, they're probably up there. I think they're like the favorites at the moment, but I don't see it come playoff basketball. I've haven't seen it, and with a team with Cat and some of they have a lot of issues that can be found out. I think later in the playoffs. So I think everything past the Cavs, maybe from the Raptors down, would be considered like sleeper level for me, and I just don't see any other team that has better players than the Sixers. Like it's just the roster is the best of all of the teams. But if they're not fit, you can just forget about it. But right now, if you look at the way things are ramping up, like I thought a few weeks ago, I said that they're the biggest chance of falling, which they did fall, but then they climbed back up a little bit. So right now they're at the seventh seed, and they're right there behind the Hawks. They're only a game behind them. So I think the Sixers have the 13th hardest strength of schedule, but the Hawks have the fifth hardest remaining. So we have a one up on them there. We play a lot of teams around us. The Sixers do, like they're playing the Heat and the Hornets. So those are going to be massive games in the standings. But I think Paul George coming back tonight as we're recording this, he'll have already played. Looking like Joel Embiid is going to play as well. Maxi is about a week away from being reevaluated. Same with Kelly Oubre, so they're likely going to be back for that final stretch of a couple of weeks. And then you look at the rest of the team, VJ Edgecombe has taken a massive step up while these guys have been out. He had the highest points this season with 35 of any player to not take any free throws in a game. That matters. It shows his ability. And then you have role players like Barlow, who's played a lot of minutes. Watford can do something for you. Quentin Grimes, we're just as a hope and a prayer at this point. But it is the best, I think, 8-man rotation further down that list past the Raptors. So I think they would be my strongest sleeper suggestion. But it all does come down to fitness and health. I think the Hawks have just played. They played so well, but they played so many awful teams that it's hard to gauge anything. The Magic lost 6 in a row. The Heat lost 5 in a row. The Hornets are the only other team I would consider, and you named them. So I think we're on the same track really, in who we would consider for that.
I think the Sixers, I just wanted to avoid it like the plague. And I'm not upset you picked the Sixers, obviously. But I feel like the Sixers are just capped at the second round. Especially after the trade. Like maybe we can string together like 2 weeks of a healthy series. But like coaching skill in the NBA has like grown a lot to the point where you see players like Cam Thomas being waived on a team that desperately needs scoring because just scoring isn't enough at this point, Every player can score, it's what can you do outside of that. Whereas, Jamal Crawford was in the league for like 14 years and he couldn't do anything except score.
Yeah.
And now players like that are getting waived. I think the matchups coaching matchups is going to be a big thing. And I think you look at Philadelphia's team and there's too much to take advantage of. You have players like Embiid and Paul George that cover up a lot of those issues when they're playing. And we saw that throughout the season. But there's a glaring hole, which is shooting. And I feel like we have shooting like every year as our glaring hole, but it's still there. And not only that, I'm even less enthusiastic about our playmaking, especially now in the clutch, because with all this time missed, one of the big issues we had as Sixers fans is the fourth quarter, the last 4 minutes. It can't just be, here you go, Maxi, go get us a bucket. Like it, you have to involve Embiid. There has to be motion,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm very worried that I mean right now we're at the 7th seed, which means we'd be playing Boston if it stays exactly the same. Do you think we're beating Boston?
No, that's the only
No.
team in the whole of this side that I don't think the Sixers would beat. I think they'd beat any other team there. And that brings us into our next point, which is teams that need to improve their seeding. And I have two in mind, and the Sixers are one of them because they need to get out of that play-in. If they play Boston, you can forget about sleeper status. Whoever plays Boston in the first round, they're done. So you just need to get into that sixth seed because if you can get into the sixth seed and you face up against the Knicks, which I don't think you should be too scared of. Maybe the Cavs if things really turn around. Don't think you should be too scared of them either. Then in the next round, if you end up playing the Pistons, who are still without Cade or have a hobbled Cade, there's no reason why you can't say right. We could go to the conference finals here. Stay away from Boston as long as possible. So,
Yeah.
I agree with your points about shooting and playmaking as an issue, but having said that, I feel like Embiid didn't play a lot of games this season that he would have played in other seasons. And I think he is looking after his body a little bit better because every time he has come back from a setback, he's looked stronger. And I think Paul George offers shooting when he gets hot. Oubre gets hot. Maxi is constantly hot from deep. So I think if you have a night where you do move the ball around, and then you have PG is on 16 points, VJ is on 19 points. Like VJ can shoot the three lately as well, and then you have Maxi's on 25. If you have a night where it's like that, and then another night you plug in Embiid there, you plug in Oubre, then come the fourth, there's more things to shut down. So theoretically, it makes sense, but obviously the game isn't played on paper, it's played on the court. So if they can't be on the court, then it's not worth talking about. But the Hawks are another team that I have that need to not so much improve their seeding as hold on to the seed. They need to keep winning. They need to stay on that sixth seed or above, because I think the Raptors are a team that could fall also, because they're, I don't know, lately they've been up and down and they look pretty poor when they're not playing bad teams. And the Hawks have the fifth hardest strength of schedule remaining, which is pretty tough. So I think they're a team that really needs to win when they play bad teams and teams around them, because otherwise they're at the mercy of Boston in the first round.
Yeah. That's really interesting because my choice for a team to improve seeding is the Sixers. So we've already more or less talked about that. I don't think we need to go into it. We already said, got to get out of Boston's way as long as possible if we're going to have a chance at that. But to talk about the Hawks, I fully agree with you. I've been so pro Hawks all year. I've been the Hawks guy on the pod all year, and yet I think they're doing nothing this playoffs. Like you said, they definitely need to improve their seeding if they want any chance at it.
Hmm.
But also, you look at that team and you think, first of all, this isn't a team that I feel like is in its last step of changing. I think they took a big step with getting rid of Trey, and I still think they're in that like transitionary period where there will be more moves this offseason. And it 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 feels very matchup based as well, where I mean right now they're supposed to be playing the Knicks. I could see it maybe going to 6 games. I would be shocked if they pulled out a win against the Knicks. And
Before
you
you
think about
continue on that train of thought, I just want to throw out the games the Hawks have remaining too. So they've got the Pistons, 2 against the Celtics, the Knicks, 2 against the Cavs, and then they play Magic and Heat, who are kind of around them. So, like, I'm not very confident for them.
I mean, now is the time, Jonathan Kuminga. If there was ever a moment for you to show the Warriors that they messed up, if Atlanta comes out with a 50% win after those teams, it would be, and he's averaging over 17 with like 4 assists and 5 rebounds. That's going to be crazy. That would be absolutely amazing for him. But I like Atlanta could go either way, I feel like. Atlanta could win like 8 of these games or 2. Like it really depends on if Dyson Daniels is hitting threes. Is Jalen Johnson playing tonight? Does CJ McCollum want to decide to play basketball again? I don't know. Like half of the team seems so fluid all of the time. And yet unpredictability might be the thing that gets them the furthest in the playoffs as well, like you're thinking.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just can't see them. I just can't see them or the Raptors making any noise in the postseason. I would much rather stake my claim on the Sixers or the Hornets than I would the Hawks or Raptors. I just don't feel positive about them. And I think the next thing we wanted to touch on was who could we see actually get into the final. So forget about the first and second round. Who's going to get to the conference final? And you've mentioned matchups a lot. I think one thing that is kind of potent and important right now is that the Knicks have the second hardest strength of schedule left in the league, and the Cavs have the 29th hardest, so the second easiest, and they're only 2.5 games behind the Knicks. And I don't know would the Cavs want to overtake them, because if they do, you get into that situation where in the second round you could have the 2-3 matchup and you play the Celtics. Whereas if you're the 4 seed and the Pistons get through, you would rather see them, I think, at this point. So all of this is all matchup dependent, and I'm interested to hear who you have as your 2 teams in the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume you have the Celtics, but who else have you got?
I do have the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals because I think it just ever since Tatum came back and he doesn't look bad, it just seems inevitable. But I genuinely thought about this for so long because I couldn't think of the matchups that were coming up. There's always elements to every team on almost every single one of these Eastern Conference teams that I feel so uncertain of. I don't know if you make sense. There's an element or two to each team that I think in the first round could easily get exploited and they lose in 6. But that being said, I had to like I really wanted to say the Hornets cuz I don't know, something in my chest made me think the Hornets. But Boston Sixers, give it to me. Give it to me. I didn't want to do it. I really didn't want to do it, but I think New York Knicks have more issues than they thought originally when they were trading for what's your man's name from the Pelicans? Jose Alvarado? I don't think he fixed a lot of their
I
problems, you
didn't
know?
think you were going to pull him out as what they thought was going to fix everything. I don't
I
know
mean, they
how.
got Jeremy Sochan as well, who I thought might be playing some more minutes
Yeah,
for
I
them.
feel like we could have picked him up and used him for minutes over in Philly.
He's getting no run right now, and Mikal Bridges is playing the worst basketball he's played since he's got into the NBA. Hopefully, it's just a slump. But it seems like there was too involved in the Giannis trade for me to think that they're just going to suddenly pull out an Eastern Conference Finals
Hmm.
like 4 months later. And for that reason, I think there's a higher chance of Philly being healthy and like dragging their way through 2 rounds, finally getting to the Eastern Conference Finals and getting bapped in
Yeah,
4. Like,
four.
it's so bad.
Yeah, I could see it exactly happening like that. And the two teams I have down here, I've got the Celtics as well. Like, I just think they're the strongest and the most weathered and the team that you trust the most. I don't think they have any chance of winning a championship. I know it's funny to say that they get to the Eastern Conference Finals and most likely win it. I just think that there is flaws in the team that do need to be addressed a little bit. And Kate has been great, and you can have an aggregate big by having himself, Vucevic, and playing a multitude of other guys across that position. But then when it comes to cutting time against OKC or San Antonio, I don't think that's going to cut it. But this is just the Eastern Conference, and I have them versus. I had two teams here that I couldn't decide between, but they're the Sixers and the Hornets, and I just think whatever way it matches up, whoever manages to avoid the Celtics earlier is one of the best teams. I honestly think that the Sixers roster is in general, if it's healthy, and the times we've seen it healthy this season, is very very good. The Celtics are very very good, and the Hornets are very very good. Outside of that, I don't trust any of these Eastern teams. So the way the seeding is right now, Sixers are more likely to grab that sixth seed. So let me just go with Boston and Sixers again. If Shane is going to listen to this, he's going to be like, "How did the both of them pick Philly to get to the Eastern Conference Finals?"
I I love that I was against you, and he's definitely listening, thinking like, "Thank God Michael's not being delusional." And right after to just
Yeah,
say Eastern Conference Finals pick.
I didn't think you were going to say that at all. I thought you were going to put in the Hornets for sure.
I I don't know. Just like you, Cavs and the Raptors. I just I can't see enough happening. Like people are I know people are gonna hear this and be like, oh my god, the Cavs. But the Cavs are so good. The Cavs have James Harden. We do not need to do this
We've seen it so
for
many
the
times.
ninth year in a row. Okay? He's going to stop producing, and Donovan Mitchell will try and take the load, pause, and it's not going to work. Like, I
Mitchell
feel
is going to be putting
horrible
up
for Mitchell.
40 points, and Harden is going to be standing on the other wing, just doing absolutely nothing.
And not to mention, Harden coming to the team, I thought Evan Mobley was going to take a leap. No, he has actually taken a step back, and Jarrett Allen has taken the
Yeah,
leap. And it's shocking that you can get a Hall of Fame like assist leader level player on your team, and you are the starting center. You are the preferred center. Everybody at the start of the season said consensus. Evan Mobley is number 1 on that team. Jared Allen is 2. Honestly, I'm 50-50 now.
hmm
Jared
Mobley,
Allen,
Mobley needs Allen next to him to actually produce. It seems like.
he seems so like dependent on the 5 on the floor. It gives worry to me, especially when earlier in the season when Garland's out and it goes, okay, now's your time, and he's still barely producing. Anyways,
I know it seems like a broken record for a lot of things with the Cavs, and that's why I can't buy into it. Same thing with the Knicks, and you've hit on those nicely. But we're going to shift over to the Western Conference now and touch on the same things. This is a lot more solid teams and a lot more teams you can actually get behind, and that don't have 1,000 flaws. Some of them do have a few flaws that you can break down, but not as much as the Eastern Conference teams. So at this point, I would consider anyone other than the Thunder, Spurs, and Nuggets sleepers. I know the Lakers have been on a run, but I still think it's a bit of a stretch to say they're not a sleeper. I still think they could be a sleeper here. So my sleeper team on this point, I'm wearing a Minnesota Vikings hat, so it's going to look like I'm a Timberwolves fan here, but they're my sleeper team. Even no matter how bad they are in the regular season, how bad they are in against tough teams, they've done it so many times that they've just come out and turned it on in the playoffs. And if Ant is out there and actually healthy, they've made it to the last two Western Conference finals. They lost 4-1 to OKC last year, 4-1 to the Mavs the year before. They beat that Nuggets team 2 years ago that everyone thought nobody could ever take them down. They took them down. They have the advantage of having played OKC last year as well, which I think will have taught them something. I think losing to the Mavs the year before did teach them a lot. And from there, they've got Io, who's been a great addition. 13-4-3 since joining. I think DiVincenzo starting a lot of the season will hopefully, although it hasn't really translated in the regular season, hopefully it translates in the postseason where he shows that Knicks level grittiness that he had, where he can make big shots, because I think he does have it in him. And I just think that they are, of all the teams down that people aren't considering, I think it's way too early to write off the Timberwolves. So they're my sleeper team.
No, I think that's actually a great team. Super, super well picked as well, because with Ant Edwards coming out, a lot of people are going to be saying, oh, aren't they in the same position as the Pistons? No. Ayo Dosunmu has thrived in the role he has been given. Absolutely thrived in the role he's been given. I called it, by the way, just wanted to
You
say
did.
that. But I think that's a really good choice, and I really wasn't very confident in Minnesota coming into these playoffs. I said they're missing something. I don't think they have it. I think the absence of Ant is actually going to help them. Like I said, with Io kind of ascending a little bit, I think they're going to have a lot more trust in him going into the playoffs. It's unfortunate for players like Naz Reid, where you were kind of hoping for that next step up, and he has had games this year where he's played well, and he's had disappointing games this year, and you haven't seen the consistency from him that you were kind of hoping to expect, and for him to kind of jump up into that third option role. I actually think Jaden McDaniels has taken another little step forward in his play, especially in the last few months.
Yeah, in the last couple of months, but I was about to say he's been a big disappointment across the season, because there's times where he looks like he just doesn't want to play. And he gets frustrated a lot. It seems like this season he's getting very frustrated. I think it's might be a maturity issue with him, because he has all the talent in the world.
Yeah, and that's why that's why all the rumors about Ja Morant going to Minnesota made zero sense already. But for me personally, my sleeper team, I'd love to say the Suns. I would actually love to say the Suns right now. But you said the non-sleeper teams are OKC, Spurs, and Denver, right?
I feel like, yeah, I think they're kind of the favorites, so I wouldn't go near them. But I mean, you can if you want.
I mean, I part of me wanted to say the Lakers, but again, I feel like that's a little bit disingenuous because they're not really a sleeper team, especially with the run they've just went on.
Where are we going here?
I'm like, I don't want to do it,
You
but
can't
I'll do
start
it just for him, just for him. Give me Houston, man. Give me Houston, man.
this.
Okay.
We talked about teams with flaws. This is the most flawed team in the West.
Look, I didn't want to go Minnesota as well. So I'm forcing the next choice, which is Houston.
Okay.
They're only one win behind Minnesota, which
Hmm.
would put them away from the Spurs. And I think that's the exact same thing with the Sixers. I think this team is not actually that bad. I think they've had a really bad run. Sengun just had another good game. You hope that he can kind of round that into a little bit of consistency. I think Ime Udoka has kind of been proven now that, hey, Reed Shepard actually kind of is that guy. We need to be playing him more. And I think in the playoffs, he's not going to be as clouded in his judgment with versus some of his decisions in the regular season. I just think, even for example, if Houston come up against the Lakers, I think a lot of people are going to pick the Lakers immediately. And I understand why. And I definitely think that they could like lose to the Lakers in the first round. But I think it's just as possible for Sengun, KD to bump him out in like 5 games.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could just see
I
them
think it's a better
making a
matchup
little
than if
run.
they moved up and played the Nuggets. I think that would be much harder.
I think, yeah, like I feel like this team is better than the way people are talking about them right now. Are they flawed? Yes. But there's not a lot of teams that aren't flawed. They have ways they can win. Ime Udoka isn't a bad coach. I just think we're ragging on the Rockets a bit too much. Too many people are ragging on the Rockets, and I think they can make a little run this year. So they're my sleeper team.
Well, we'll hold on to that conversation for a minute because they're my team that need to improve seeding. But down to the fact, again, similarly to the Hawks, I would actually prefer if they held their seeding rather than moved up too much because if I was them, I would rather not play the Nuggets. But then it's a case the Nuggets could move up a place and then you avoid them anyway. So it's a difficult one. But I think they do need to get more wins under their belt. They can't afford to fall closer to the Suns. Um, and I don't think they will because they have the 24th strength of schedule left. So they've a very, very easy remainder here. The Suns are around in the middle point. They play a lot of bad teams. They play the Jazz, the Grizzlies twice, the Pelicans, the Bucks, and they play the Warriors, who are awful. But then, having said all that, they were getting whacked by the Bulls the other night. The Bulls come back. They come back, make it a clutch game, and then Buzelis just like gets in KD's head, cooks him, finishes right over him, buries a three, and then KD pushes him, and it's a clear offensive foul. Ime loses his head, gets thrown out of the game against the Bulls. Yeah, all those things point towards not a lot of positivity for me. But having said all that, I agree with you that they could probably beat the Lakers. I would rather see them play the Lakers than the Timberwolves or the Nuggets. If they match up against the Timberwolves or the Nuggets, I'm picking the Timberwolves or the Nuggets. If they match up against the Spurs or Thunder, I'm picking Spurs or Thunder. It's only the Lakers I see in this bunch at the top that I would like them to play, that I would consider it. And that's just down to their physicality. But I think Reed Shepherd needs to play more. Tari Eason was one of the best 3 point shooters in the league. I think he's made 3 3 pointers in all of March up until tonight. That is crazy. That's just crazy. 7 games I think he had with 0 3 pointers, and he was their 3 point merchant. So yeah, there's a lot of issues there. I don't know. I think they need to win more games, and if we are gonna have that conversation, the Suns need to win more games to try and overtake them. Because if you're playing the Spurs or the Thunder, good night, forget about it. And I actually think the Suns are an interesting team. I'd like them to play against someone that's not the Thunder or the Spurs right now, because they're a good team.
With the Suns and the Rockets as well, both of them have incurred like tons of injury, like bad luck this year. I think Dylan Brooks is out for the rest of the season, which I would actually be kind of enthusiastic about the Suns team in the playoffs if they weren't dealing with those injuries. Same thing with the Rockets as well. This team looks so different with Steven Adams playing every single night. And there is a lot of people are saying, talking about KD being moved this season, but there was a huge hole in this team, and it's a Fred Van Vliet
Yeah.
sized hole that they were missing all year. I think they run it back next year and they look very different. But my team to improve seeding is the Lakers. And I don't even mean like overtaking the Spurs. You have to stay right there at 3. You cannot drop because things are just going to get bad if you drop down into 4, okay? Uh, I don't know. It just feels like seeding is as important as ever now, especially when the biggest difference between these Western Conference teams are matchups. Where Minnesota, I think, could beat 2 or 3 of these teams, and the other 2 or 3 they'll lose. So same thing with the Lakers. If the Lakers come up against like Denver in round 1, might be a bad matchup. But if they hit Phoenix first and then they hit, you know, Minnesota after or something, for example, like I could see them taking a little bit of a run the whole way through. So my big thing was the Lakers just got to keep up this winning streak. Can't have 4 or 5 losses in a row. now because you're emotionally spent after the last like month and a half of Luca bawling his mind out.
I mean, if they do lose 4 or 5 in a row, you could easily slip to the 6th seed. It could happen as quickly as that. Or if you go down even to the 5th and you play the Nuggets and the Nuggets have an extra game at home, nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to play against that, should I say. But yeah, Luca's been so good lately. Even Aiton has taken a big step up since we went hard on him. I think he must have saw your video. He said he needed to look into the mirror and look at himself. Which yeah, he's been better, but I don't trust that it'll last too long. But I do think Luca can carry any team, especially if LeBron is going to continue this kind of facilitator type role he's been playing, and he's just been yamming every game like 2 or 3 crazy dunks. I think he's like saving his energy, being like the secondary, third, like tertiary guy after Luca and Austin Reeves. So yeah, it's good to see LeBron playing so well. But that moves us into the final bit of conversation about this and who's going to get to the conference finals. I'm going straight chalk here. I'm picking the Thunder versus the Spurs. I think they're the best two teams in the NBA. I considered the Nuggets because I picked them to win the entire thing at the start of the season, and I really thought they would with everything running back the way it has. But their defense has been so bad, and it's been worse than the Lakers as well this season, and it's just a major issue. And I think is something that's going to get exposed if they play a Spurs or a Thunder, which they will have to do at some point, most likely in the second round. So I think I'm sticking with the Spurs and Thunder. I really like both of their rosters. They're so deep. Um, pause. They're really really able to put it up to each other and to put it up to anyone else. So that's what everyone wants to see. Everyone wants to see that Thunder Spurs matchup, and I think it's gonna be what we get.
I like I think it's a shoehorn in that the Spurs are making the Western Conference Finals. And like anybody who questions that, Wemby barely plays over 30 minutes. Most games, Wemby plays between 25 to 30 minutes. Okay? He plays like he's a part-time player. If like people even now, like talking heads on TV, they're saying, "Oh, the Spurs, like they're so inexperienced, blah blah blah." I genuinely think the Spurs could just win this year if they said, screw it, and just played him 40 minutes a game. Like, I actually, if they decided to do that, which they won't, obviously, for his development, but like, who are they? Who are they? They have the best defense on the floor with him, and he plays half the game. Like, his offense is mind blowing every time you watch him. He does another move, something else that you'd think wasn't possible at 7'6", and he's just hit a hezzy cross spin move off the backboard. Yeah, like I if he plays if he hypothetically played 38 minutes a game, OKC does not stand a chance. Like I think it's crazy, but that's why I have the Lakers and the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals.
Damn, you put the Lakers in over the Thunder.
Literally for the only fact that it is so difficult to go back to back in the NBA. And I think we are giving it the the Thunder are so good. And I'm not saying they're not good. And they could just walk into the NBA finals even. And I will just have to eat these words. But there's been the season this year for them has been a little bit different. Now, the plus of Jared McCain might screw this whole thing up. But Jalen Williams, every time he's played with them, they have not looked like the same team as when Shea is there by himself. Whether that is partly because J-Dub views himself as a superstar, and when Shea is there by himself, everyone else knows their role, understands what they're meant to do, understands what's supposed to be going on. The team seems a little bit different when OKC has been fully healthy this year and J-Dub just got out of injury. I could see them getting chipped out in a tough game against Denver, for example, or Minnesota. Like, I could see like at game 7, J-Dub going like 8 for 23. Um, Anthony Edwards having 38 points, and him winning game 7. Like I think the fatigue of playing the whole way through the playoffs last year, winning everything, and then playing almost the entire season at the exact same pace again this year. I think there's a higher
Mm.
chance of Luka just going absolutely nuclear and bopping everybody out in the first 2 rounds.
I don't know if I can't get on board with the Luca thing versus over the Thunder, but there is something I will say that towards your point is that how close the Thunder were last season against the Nuggets. That is something worth considering. That went to a game 7 and how close it was to the fact that the Thunder could have crashed out at that point. But on the other hand, you mentioned a lot about J-Dub there. He was so good in the playoffs last year. He pulled them through so many moments. And the year before, he wasn't. And then he took that step. He's barely played any considerable amount of basketball this season, especially in the last few months. So I think I would not worry about him at all. I think that's a release valve for Shea to get more rest during the playoffs and do his thing. Chet has had his moments of injury too, which I think what he does on defense is like it's as close to Wemby as you're gonna get. Like people underrate his defense so much, the deterrent he has in the paint. And then every other piece that they have has gotten more and more minutes this season. They've just been playing games to develop guys, and they've got 57 wins. I don't think that there's any way that this team doesn't lock back in. Shea is a man on a mission, and I'm picking them. I'm gonna pick them to win everything. I just think they're so good. I know it's hard to repeat, but this team is like I can't with the Luca thing. Like when they get into this, Luca's gonna lose his mind with the defense that OKC are gonna play on him, and this whole small little spurt of Vanderbilt and DeAndre Ayton being good on defense. Yeah, good luck. Good luck against the Thunder. They're gonna roll out. They could roll out a 5-man guard lineup of AJ Mitchell, Jared McCain, Isaiah Joe, Shea, and Lou Dort, and they're gonna just clank threes all night against you. And the Lakers aren't going to be able to put it. The Lakers can't figure things out on defense when they need to. So I just can't put them in this conversation.
I don't know. I just felt like if I was a betting man, which might be next season, we'll see. But if I was a betting man, I would put half of my life savings on OKC not making the NBA finals. Like I
Not
just
not making it.
not making the NBA finals. At least the NBA finals. But even the Western Conference finals, I think I just think it's just kind of a tough situation for him. And I'm not sure if they're gonna be able to like drag themselves out of it.
Okay. Okay. I like it. Something different. Spurs versus Lakers, that would be, 150 to 100 4 times. They might as well just hand it over to them at that point. But I think any team other than the Thunder against the Spurs are in that same situation right now. The Spurs just look so good. And I think you're right. If they just went, let's go Wemby all night, let's play him. They would easily win the whole thing out. But I don't think it's even about him at this point. Like Stefan Castle, Keldon Johnson, all these role play players are basically untouchable for them at this point because they're that good. Champagny has unbelievable nights. Stylen Harper's barely getting his minutes, but when he's out there, he contributes a lot. De'Aaron Fox, Harrison Barnes, you've got the veteran there. Like I don't know, they've got so many good players. I just think they that I just want to see that matchup so badly. The Thunder and Nugget and Spurs in the conference finals because I think every game would be so good and it's like a guaranteed 7 game series. I think because both
Yeah.
teams are so strong.
I think I think that might be the most watched series in the entire playoffs if that happens. I Even if it was OKC Boston in the finals, I think the Spurs OKC matchup might be must watch. Drop everything on whenever that matchup is on, like for game 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That would just be such a high level of basketball being displayed every night from superstars that couldn't be different, with supporting casts that it feels like everybody has a role and everybody's amazing at something. It it would just be like the pinnacle of NBA basketball right there in the Western Conference Finals, sorry. Not even in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, 100%. It's like we have in the NFL sometimes, where like the NFC Championship game was literally the Super Bowl. That would be like kind of the same thing. I feel like whoever would win that would just walk it. So yeah, I think I think we'll leave it there. We've covered a lot. We're ready for playoff basketball, to say the least. As you can tell, most teams have about 10 games left. Some 11, some 9. But yeah, we're really reaching the point where the season is about to get to the good stuff. So more from Michael in a couple of weeks. We'll be ready to have you back with your next topic, and then come the playoffs, we'll be hitting plenty of NBA stuff. So if there's anything that you guys want to hear from us too, or topics you want to hear on the NBA, just let us know and we will touch on them. But Mike, thanks again for jumping on with us.
Thanks very much.
So it wouldn't be an episode of Who's Got the Ball without a little bit of Gan Seans and power rankings thrown in there. So it is a little bit of a different layout than usual, obviously, because we don't got our 3 sports, and I'm currently on my lonesome wrapping this up, because Shane is away in Prague, but went into a lot of detail, as you heard with Michael, on the NBA playoff race and everything around that. So, going to give the Gone Chance picks for both myself and Shane, and our power rankings updates. Shane has mailed them in. So last week was an absolute disaster. Both of us got 0 points after I had a good week the week before. Yeah, just really bad. Both of us had the Jazz to beat the Sixers. Both of us had West Ham to beat Villa. Neither of those came off. Yeah, bit of a disaster. And then I had the Magic to beat the Lakers, and Shane had the Warriors to beat the Hawks, which did not come off. The Magic were so close against the Lakers. Yeah, they just couldn't get it out. Lost by a point. So moving into this week, my picks are the Hawks to beat the Celtics. The Hawks are 40-32. The Celtics are 47-24. That's Friday night at 11:30 p.m. Then the Hornets to beat the Celtics also. So I'm going. If you're a Celtics fan, I'm predicting a bad weekend for you here. 37-34 are the Hornets, and the Celtics are 47-24. So that's Sunday at 11 p.m. Both of these teams, the Hawks and Hornets, are on a heater recently. I prefer the Hornets pick. I actually genuinely do think they can beat the Celtics. The Hawks is a tougher one, but the Celtics have lost a couple of games recently. So let's see what happens. And then I've got the Pelicans at 25-48 to beat the Raptors at 40-31 Friday at 12:30 a.m. I just think that the Pelicans have been actually playing some decent basketball lately, and it looks like they've been actually trying to win some games, even though they can't really get into the play-in. But at the same time, they don't have their pick because they traded it away, so they're still trying to play some basketball and grow. And Zion has been playing a lot of minutes as well. I think the Raptors are untrustworthy away from home, so I like the Pelicans to grab this one. Then with Shane, he's got the Jazz to beat the Suns. The Jazz are 21-50. The Suns are 40-32. This is Saturday night at 3 a.m. It's going to be a tough one for the Jazz to pull that out, but Shane fancies them. He also goes for the Bucks to beat the Clippers. The Bucks are 29-41. The Clippers are 35-36, so just around 500. This is on Sunday at 8:30 p.m. The Bucks will be looking to get one there at home, in a nice viewing window. And then he's also got the Hornets to beat the Celtics, the same as me. I think this is probably the best pick of the weekend, so both of us have got that one locked in. So moving on then to the power rankings to get that covered off for you guys. Last week, I had the Thunder, Spurs, Arsenal, the San Antonio Spurs, that is, Arsenal, Man United, the Hawks, and Man City. I've made a few changes from that. The Thunder staying first, 12 games won in a row. I think they're the best team in the NBA. They're just so good across the board. Next up, I've moved Man City into second because they won the Carabao Cup comfortably against Arsenal. They were very, very good. I think they deserve to move up to second, having got the first piece of silverware of the season under their belt. That pushes the San Antonio Spurs down a spot, not for any reason of bad play, just to get City in and give them props for winning. Fourth then is Arsenal. That moves them down a spot for me. I think, yeah, they're going very well in the league, but they were awful in that cup final. Man United also moved down a spot to facilitate City moving up. They got the draw against Bournemouth, some contentious decisions there by the referee, but look, United still going well overall. They're in third place, so they're in fifth. And then in sixth place, I've got the Pistons coming back in. Think they were a little bit iffy without Cade when he was first out. Won four in a row now. Michael mentioned Danish Jenkins' game-winning shot, and how they've managed without Cade has been very good. So they've pretty much cemented the number one seed in the East, which I think is very important too. Shane, last week he had the Thunder, San Antonio Spurs, Arsenal, Lakers, United, and City. He's got some changes this week in order, but not in the teams he's picked. He's still got the Thunder first. He's gone the similar route to me and put City in second place, which bumps the Spurs down to third. So we've got the same top three. He's got the Lakers in where I don't, but they're 9-1 in their last 10. And we spoke about how well they've played lately with Michael, so hard to argue with that one. United are also in fifth for him, but he has bumped Arsenal down to sixth. No surprises there from Shane. He's let his feelings known about Arsenal a few times so far this season and last season. So that's pretty much it for this episode. Said we'd throw those in there to keep consistent for you guys, as well as the segment with Michael. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Shane will be back next week. Hopefully, the two of us will be celebrating an Ireland couple of victories and on the road to the World Cup. Shane's in Prague for that, so really hope he's enjoying that and having a great time. The game is going to be tonight. That's why the episode's coming out on Thursday. I didn't want to be recording the night of the game, so I'm going to be very anxiously watching that one, hoping we grind out a win so that I can head over to the Aviva on Tuesday against either Denmark or Macedonia, North Macedonia. So yeah, huge few days for Ireland. Hopefully we can get there. Hopefully we can get into the World Cup and have a great summer of it. But we'll wrap the episode there. Really hope you enjoyed listening to it. Any suggestions, any topics you want covered off, let me know. Let Shane know. Let us know on our social media page. We'd be happy to throw in whatever you guys want to hear. Like, comment, subscribe, share on any platform you're in. Anything you can do really, really benefits us. So if you can take a second to do it, thank you very much. And we will leave it there. Talk to you again next week.
Welcome back to another episode of Who's Got the Ball with Shane and James.